Hey, how's it going everyone? This is William here. In today's Fuji Friday, we're going to be talking about the Fuji X-T200 because that is definitely the big news this week. And I'm going to give you my take on some of the things that are being talked about right now. I'm not going to go over specs because there are already plenty of videos going over specs and showing you what the camera is all about. And there are a lot of excellent videos out there. So if you're interested in that camera, definitely go on YouTube and watch a bunch of those. There are a couple of things that I do want to concentrate on and talk about. The first one is there is a gyro in that camera, and that's something that's very interesting. Traditionally, gyros have been used on action cams because they are really known for stabilized images, and you really do need that gyro in order to tell the sensor where it is in 3D space, because obviously when you have a camera, it can move in a whole bunch of different directions, and it's really important when you're trying to digitally stabilize that image. In fact, it's really the only good way to do it. I'm pretty sure GoPro was the one that kind of pioneered that type of technology, but if I'm wrong, definitely tell me in the comments below. There are two reasons that I want to talk about this specific subject. Number one, how Fuji's implementing this type of technology, and number two, how we can use that technology for other things. So the first part of it is that Fuji's using it for digital image stabilization. So they're calling it gimbal mode, in which when you're moving around, the gyro is helping to stabilize that image to prevent distortions or weird jitters. What's important here is that we need the ability to adjust how much digital image stabilization is actually occurring, and the slider has to be 100% reliable or maximum effectiveness. The reason why I say this is that a lot of times engineers go for maximum effectiveness, and what happens is that the image might distort a little bit or it might get a little jittery because they're trying their best to do maximum image stabilization, when a lot of times for professionals, people who are actually using these cameras for professional events, they don't really care about maximum image stabilization. They care about maximum reliability. In other words, I want my image to be consistent. If that means bringing that image stabilization down to only 50% of effectiveness, but I can guarantee that I'm going to get a nice smooth image, that's something that professionals want. They want maximum reliability. It's the reason why they still use a lot of manual controls, because they have full control of the camera. If you want digital image stabilizations, even with all these sensors, to be useful for the professional market, you have to have a setting in which we can have a guaranteed reliability, even if it means less image stabilization occurs. That reliability is what ultimately makes that feature useful in the professional market. Now, the other side of things, which is maximum stabilization, that's something more for YouTubers and for reviewers, in which they're just doing all sorts of tests, and you can crank it up all the way to maximum and see if it passes the test. Now, for people like me who's vlogging, I probably fall somewhere in the middle. I really don't like it when my image distorts. I don't really mind jitters. It's just the distortion thing that really bothers me. So I can probably live with more stabilization, but anytime where I'm actually doing a professional event in which I want all of my shots to count, I definitely want the most reliability out of that image that I possibly can. And from my experience on a lot of different cameras, that pretty much means turning off digital image stabilization because it's just not reliable enough. Now, the second area that I want to talk about specifically for gyros and sensors of that kind is the fact that you can use it for many other different things. Artificial intelligence is one of the things that really depends on a lot of different sensors, and sensors of this nature are relatively cheap thanks to the smartphone market. In fact, if you look up how many sensors are on your smartphone, you're either going to be really amazed or really appalled, because this thing knows a lot about you just by virtue of you carrying it around. But I'll give you an example of what I mean. If the camera already has a gyro and you're over here panning, tracking a subject, the gyro can track how fast you are panning, and it can make intelligent decisions on shutter speeds, on brightness, refresh rates of the LCD panel to help you take better pictures. Those are all things that a gyro can help the artificial intelligence in your camera to make better decisions. I see a lot of older people, in their 70s or 80s, when they actually hold their cameras, they have a hard time holding it steady. In other words, there's a little bit of jitter because their muscles don't work all that well, a gyro can kind of figure that out and realize that, you know what, this person, for how he's going to be able to use this camera, he definitely needs a higher minimum shutter speed, and he definitely needs digital image stabilization turned on all the time in order for him to get nice sharp images. Adding more sensors to these cameras really does make a whole lot of sense, and the fact that Fujifilm is adding these type of sensors into an entry-level camera is a really good thing. Hopefully they're going to make their way into pretty much all of the X-T cameras, and they can start really building some intelligent design into their cameras to help people take better pictures and better video. So the next section, I'm going to be talking why I would prefer the X-T200 over the X-A7, which I've used for a couple of weeks now, and I know this camera pretty well. So I'm going to be talking about video features specifically for vlogging. There are definitely some really great things about the X-A7, but there's one thing that's really terrible about it that's going to force me to go to the X-T200, which is the audio interface, specifically the preamps on this. I just have not been able to get a good clean audio signal into the camera to get really good audio for my vlogs. Now, these are entry-level cameras, so they're really designed for vlogging. They're really not designed for any type of professional video. One of the things that you're going to find out really quickly when you start vlogging is that audio is extremely important, and if you're not able to get good clean audio, you're just not going to like the quality that's going to come out, and it's not going to be content that you want to present. Now, from what I have seen from other YouTubers, specifically Jordan over at DP Reviews, he did do a really good test about the audio quality of the X-T200. He did find a way to get clean audio recorded onto the camera, and that's what's important to me. There are other reasons that you would want to move over the X-T200. One of them is there's a lack of custom buttons on this particular frame, in which you really can't set it up to what you want to do when you start doing some advanced vlogging, which is like taking some good images and then moving over to slow-mo. You only really have one custom button, and this one's dedicated to start the video recording, because on the dial there is no movie settings and there are really no other custom buttons on this frame. And the last thing, of course, is the 2.5mm jack, which forces you to use an adapter, which is really annoying. It's something that you can definitely get around, but when you add it up with all the other things, it's just worth the extra $100 to go to the X-T200. Now, Fujifilm could work their magic and they can come out with a magic firmware that fixes the audio interface. I doubt it, but you know what? It could happen. I really hope they do, and they come out with it soon, because I would love to keep the camera, because saving $100 would be great, and this camera functionally still does almost everything I want it to do. Now, there is a feature that the X-T200 does, and this will not be able to do, which is slow motion at 120 frames per second, which is pretty much my gold standard for slow motion. So if you really love slow motion, the X-T200 is definitely the way to go. I definitely have high hopes for that camera, and I can't wait to try it out. Very quickly, before wrapping up this video, I do want to talk about the photography for these type of cameras. From what I understand watching these videos, the X-A7 and the X-T200 share the same processor and the sensor, and when I'm out there taking pictures for the last couple of weeks, when I compare it to the X-T30, does the X-T30 beat it? Of course it does, but I don't really feel like I'm bringing a lesser camera when I'm actually going out taking pictures with this, so long as I'm bringing better glass than the 15 to 45. So the takeaway here is that pretty much all of the modern sensors from Fujifilm, even the entry-level ones, they're doing an excellent job. You're definitely going to get raw files that you can definitely play with and get some really great images out there. Obviously, if you spend more money, you're going to get a better processor and better sensor and an overall better image quality, but the entry-level ones are really good, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So long as you're not pixel peeping, you're actually trying to find what's wrong with the image, I think you'll really love it. Very quickly, I just want to thank all of my subscribers. Hitting over 10K is definitely a great milestone for me, and I couldn't have done it without you. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next video.